Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a new release from Paavo Järvi and the Deutsche Kammerorchester Bremen. Schubert Symphonies numbers 8 and 4, except here they're called 7 and 4 because of the revised numbering, which is stupid and unnecessary and drives everyone crazy. The 8th is the unfinished. Well, now the 7th is the unfinished, according to some people. I just call it the unfinished and be done with it. Damn it. It's so aggravating. But that's beside the point. Here we have performances. Well, I listened to them really carefully, and I have to say, everything that this orchestra plays is fabulously well played. They are a crack ensemble, as we say in the business. They can do anything and do it really, really well. They have beautiful balances and extraordinary precision. And sometimes, and you could argue here, that amazing precision may get in the way of musical expression. Not because they're cold or mechanical, but because they're cold and mechanical. No, because yeah, what can I say? That's what happens. It comes off as somewhat cold and mechanical. And it's odd. I can't really put my finger on exactly where it happens, but the overall impression is one of great accuracy rather than expressive spontaneity. Now, part of that, it's not just the ensemble, of course. Part of that is, of course, Järvi. He's a very, very fine conductor. He really is. And I want so much to like just about everything he does because he really does well. The unfinished, let's take the unfinished. Let's start there, shall we? It's a very beautiful performance. Actually, the second movement, I think, comes off a little better than the first. The second movement flows beautifully. The clarinet solo is exquisite. It doesn't have any dead spots at all. The key change toward the very end in the coda is magical. It's beautifully done. But the first movement, well, I have expectations when it comes to the first movement because it's really like the first example of an expressionist nightmare. Well, maybe the overture to Don Giovanni is that, but it's similar to that. It's spooky and it's dark and it's has this wonderful contrast between the lyricism of the second subject and the creepiness of the opening. And I don't think that that's very fully realized here. And it could have been. It could have been. There's a niceness to the playing, the care that the orchestra takes with balances in the development section when the trombones have the opening. Da 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 da. There's a trill. Yeah, da da da. Does that stuff. It's gotta sound scary. It's like Godzilla stomps on Tokyo music. It really needs to sound scary. And then at the yum ba-dum 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 bum bum da da da. Well, as that's happening, the brass section is trading off these yum ba-dum ba-dum. It's very Brucknerian. It's like incredibly Brucknerian. Bruckner does that sort of thing all the time. And you want to hear the horns when they have that rhythm, boom, ba-dum, 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 in the background. It should stay at a uniform dynamic so that you have that constant, relentless rhythm going through the whole passage. Well, it doesn't here, actually. Kind of intriguingly, just where you would think that using the chamber orchestra with its incredible balances and things would really bring out some of those details, Järvi doesn't do it. And it's Järvi's fault. It really is. I do like the coda. The coda is very straightforward, and it doesn't end on a soggy diminuendo, which is like all wrong. It's dum, bum, bum, bum. It shouldn't fade off into the distance. And Järvi doesn't do it, to his credit. So there are beautiful things and a few disappointing things. It's very good, but I would have like to have had just a little bit more beneath the surface probing of the existential angst that Schubert seems to be expressing. The horror, apocalypse now, the horror, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's that. Then we come to the Fourth Symphony. The fourth is subtitled The Tragic. There is nothing tragic about this symphony at all. Yeah, it's in a minor key, big deal. It has an introduction that's kind of minor-y and a, first exposition to the first subject that's kind of minor-y, but basically there's very little darkness here. There really isn't. And so I'm not bothered by the fact that there's very little darkness in the performance because the music doesn't really support it, although you could try and exaggerate it somehow. It's a very clean performance, a very neat performance, not to my mind the most powerful or expressive performance, and that's just me. I love the scherzo. They really catch all the rhythmic hijinks beautifully. The loud outburst in the Andante is sudden and very, very nicely handled. Part of the fault is Schubert's. Let's face it. I mean, Schubert was great, but he was learning when he was writing these symphonies. I mean, the second subject of the first movement, which has a merry-go-round of sort of pointless modulations. It just keeps going, and, let's change key and try it this way. Let's do it that way. It's not music that plays itself. And I think that just, really fine execution isn't really enough to put over some of the weaker spots in the first movement and finale. The finale is another thing where, the ending is kind of comes on you out of nowhere, and then it just stops. Järvi could do more. I really believe he could do more than secure really nifty playing from the Deutsche Kammerorchester Bremen. So it's good. It's good. It's not great. It's admirable, very, very decent music making, but it doesn't, to my way of listening and thinking, get much below the surface of the music. And the music has that. There are creepy things happening below the surface that you could do something with. But they don't, so there you go. If you collect these recordings, then feel free, collect away. But it's not the best Schubert I've ever heard. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.